Welcome to the Spring 2017 AutoBoom webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the different levels and combinations we can use with AutoBoom, some of the features and benefits, lessen wear and tear on the boom, the quick calibration, how easy to tune it is, and how you can spray faster with level booms. Starting with some basics here, these are the different controllers that can be used to control the Raven AutoBoom system. We have the standalone console in the lower portion of the screen. We can also use the 4 and 5000 SCS series consoles, the Raven Invisio Pro, Viper Pro, and the Viper 4. They all have the basic same AutoBoom control. Alright, so here are the two basic systems currently for the Raven AutoBoom systems. The first series is the PowerGlide Plus. As you can see, it used a cushion wheel assembly for the boom to feel the ground as it's going through the field. This is a pressure-based wheel system. The system detects pressure drops when the wheels hit the ground, and this triggers the AutoBoom control node to lift the booms to give it a controlled float across the field. You should never run the wheels on the ground. They should only touch for a brief moment. The UltraGlide system uses ultrasonic sensors to read the ground or crop height depending where the sensor is mounted, and it adjusts the booms accordingly to what it sees below. One of the main questions when determining what system to go with, whether the PowerGlide or UltraGlide system, is how fast can you go? With PowerGlide Plus, you can go as fast as the operator can handle, and as long as the machine functions are able to keep up with the speed. UltraGlide can go almost as fast. It can go as fast as the machine functions, but just keep in point that the ultrasonic sensor still is reading the ground right below it, so you want to make sure you keep that into consideration when you are driving through the field. For guys running the ultrasonic sensors, here's just kind of a brief picture to show how the ultrasonic sensor works. Just keep in point it does have a 8-inch blind spot on the top of the sensor, so anything within that it can not read as well, so it may cause erratic performance. And also to remember to determine your spray setting height to measure from the point which you are reading to the sensor. One thing to keep note on, the ultrasonic sensor does have a footprint, which as you can see on the bottom, if you measure ½ inch of the distance of the center height, for example, if your sensor height is 36 inches, it will leave a footprint at the bottom in a cone shape of 18 inches. Here's a diagram that's put together that shows a good sensor placement for guys running the ultrasonic sensors. If you take a look there on the first left-hand side, the sensor is placed halfway on the crop height and the ground. This is a bad placement as it can cause erratic performance as it is picking up signals from both the ground and crop height. So as you look, you'd either want to do the middle or far right setup. In the middle there, we're showing that the sensor is right above the crop height, and that will give a consistent performance, as well as the right side if it's reading in between the rows as long as there's no crop canopy. Then it'll just continually read off the ground and maintain a consistent height. One common question guys ask is what ultrasonic sensor system should they go with. We do offer a 3 or 5 sensor setup. One of the big things to keep in mind is what terrain you guys will be running the machine in. Typically guys that run in a rougher terrain or have the larger 120 foot or wider booms do recommend the 5 sensor setup. This will put one sensor out on each wing and one on the inner wings along with the center sensor. This does give better feedback as far as what the ground conditions are. For guys running in extreme terrain setups, we do like to offer the combination setup where it does run a 5 sensor along with the PowerGlide Plus wheels. This does offer the best performance based on if the sensors can't keep up or if the terrain changes quite a bit. The wheel does pick up on the boom and it does switch modes in the node for a brief second, and this will change modes between UltraGlide and PowerGlide Plus to make sure that we keep the boom out of the ground. Alright, as stated earlier, the calibration is very easy with Raven AutoBoom. One thing we want to keep in note, you want to make sure that we maintain a height of 30 inches or higher when doing the calibration, and if you're keeping the machine at full operating RPM that you will be operating in the field. This will assure premium performance. As you see on the screen here, it's basically going to be 2 button pushes. This is on a Viper 4. There is a cal left. As you see, the machine will go through its initial calibration, which takes about 30 seconds, and then once that is done, you will do the cal right. And you might see the booms move just a little bit during the calibration, but once the calibration is done, that's all there is. Calibration was the first step for when you're first initially setting up your Raven AutoBoom, or if you are going to fine-tune for the year. You want to make sure it's calibrated first, and then here are the fine-tuning settings that we will jump into. There is a order of tuning that we want to start with. You'll always want to adjust your sensitivity first. Basically, this setting will determine how reactive the booms are. A higher number is going to make them more reactive. So for example, if you're running ultrasonic sensors and the wind is blowing and it's reading off the grass, it might make the boom jump up and down. If it's too low, it might not be as reactive. The next one you want to set will be the speed setting. This will determine how fast the booms try to reach their target height. A higher number will make it move faster, will send more voltage to the AutoBoom valve block. A lower number will make it reach the target height slower. There are a couple other settings that we can choose for guys running a heavy boom or a light boom. If you have a large 120-foot steel boom, if you do a range of 100 plus, that will send more voltage to the nose to give it a quicker up. And guys running a real light aluminum boom, if you run a 200 plus setting, that will give it a fast down to keep the boom from hanging up in the air. The last setting that you'll want to adjust will be stability. This keeps the opposing boom from the one that's being raised from dipping down. This is especially seen in machines that have a loose center rack. One thing to note too, the stability setting, the lower the number, the more stable it will make it. The default setting is 20, which is good for machines with rigid center racks like case machines. Mostly we find that most machines fall between the 5 to 14 range. That one we want to at least test what the machine, if you want to put your hand under the ultrasonic sensor on one end and watch the opposing boom and make sure that it's either staying level or raises slightly. If you guys want to see how these settings affect performance on a machine, check out our fine-tuning video on our Raven Precision YouTube channel. And lastly, the one setting that you want to make sure is programmed based on where the ultrasonic sensors are mounted is the sensor offset. As you see in the screen here, if it's above the spray tips, you will have a positive value. And if it is below the spray tips, you want to add a negative value. This you do want to measure. Once we have all the settings performed on the AutoBoom, one thing that you want to keep in mind is as the season progresses and the canopy changes with your crop, the one setting that may need additional changing and fine-tuning during the year will be your sensitivity. The other one should be dialed in and shouldn't require much changing.